In 1990, the New Conservatives began planning a long term conflict involving Russia and Ukraine. Then, shortly after, their work quietly began behind the scenes. Who are the New Conservatives? They follow an ideology that seeks to ensure US dominance over the world forever. Those who support war believes that as long as the US remains engaged in global conflict, its supremacy will continue permanent war for them is the key to maintaining hegemony. In 1997, the United States formed an analysis group to prepare a strategy for the 21st century. By 2000, their report, Rebuilding America's Defenses, was published by the Project for the New American Century. Its main message was simple: America must rebuild and strengthen its military, then defenses spending had to rise. In the 1990s, the US began courting Ukraine, telling them, oh, you are European, join NATO, you will be safe, otherwise, Russia will eat you. At that time, Mikhail Gorbachev was the leader of the Soviet Union. He was assured by US and European leaders that NATO would not expand even an inch toward Russia. But those promises were broken. Today, many nations around Russia have joined NATO. Following the release of the New American Century report, the US began a new proxy war with Russia. In 2000, the US invested 5 billion into Ukrainian politics. This was confirmed by the Victoria Nuland, former US Assistant Secretary of State, during a conference on December 13, 2013. She is now widely seen as one of the architects of the Ukrainian Russia conflicts. In 2004, Ukraine Orange Revolution removed a pro-Russian government. With American backing, a pro-NATO President Viktor Yushchenko came to power. So, what is NATO? Formed in 1949, NATO is a military alliance. One of the member is attacked, the rest respond collectively. In reality, NATO is a tool used by the West to position troops and missile close to Russia. By pulling Ukraine into NATO, the West could launch strikes from Russia doorsteps. Also, on May 3rd, 2022, Pope Francis said that NATO barking at Russia's door may have led to Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Pope blamed NATO for Russia invasion. And in 2014, another pro-Russian president was elected. But then came the revolution of dignity. That president fled to Russia, where he still lives. A new conservative government backed by the US took over. America's 5 billion investment had worked. President Obama's administration openly supported the revolution, and the US quickly recognized the new government. Before the 2014 revolution, there was a phone call between Victoria Nuland and US Ambassador Jeffrey, where they discussed who should become Ukrainian next president. The leaked recording is available. They selected a leader they trusted, someone who would remain loyal to Western interest. In 2019, Vladimir Zelensky became president. In the eyes of many, he is a puppet of the UK and Europe, placed in power to confront Russia. Just as Indian Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann was allegedly installed in Punjab to weaken the state, Zelensky was positioned to escalate conflict with Russia, and he done very well. Zelensky then intensified efforts to join NATO, but Russia could never allow NATO missiles to be stationed along its border. The West left Russia no choice. They forced its hand. A similar plan was used before. In 1998, former US National Security Advisor Zbigniew Brzezinski told a French magazine that the US had deliberately provoked the Soviet Union to invade Afghanistan in 1979. The goal: trap them, drain them, break them. The same strategy played out in Ukraine war was planned at least 10 years, but Mr. Trump broke the wheel. Europe and the UK wanted Russia to attack and get stuck. Once that happened, crippling sanctions were imposed to hurt Russia economically. If Russia is weakened, UK Europe will remain safe. The UK Russia rivalry is 300 years old. Back in 1840, the British feared that if Russia ever reached the Indian Ocean through present day Pakistan and British Empire's hold over India would collapse. Especially if Russia formed an alliance with Maharaja Ranjit Singh, who at the time ruled over regions that are now part of Pakistan, southern Afghanistan, and northern India. Had such an alliance occurred, the Sikh Empire and the Russian Empire could have become one of the most powerful forces on earth. During that period, several former Napoleon generals were serving in Ranjit Singh army, and the Maharaja had a favorable view of the French. This French connection, combined with the potential Russian alliance, made the British deeply uneasy. Many believes that this is why the Sikh Empire was ultimately dismantled through a deliberate conspiracy to protect the interest of the British Empire in India. As I have said before, the US continues to follow the New Century Plan. It will always be in a war, direct, indirect, or proxy. Whether it's through Russia, Israel, or others, the pattern remains same. While Donald Trump appeared to distance himself from new conservatives and improve ties with Russia, it's now clear he too followed the same ideology. He kept the US in war, just shifted the focus from Russia to Iran and China. Why? It's also business. If the US sideline Russia and Russia gets stronger, Europe becomes afraid. And where does Europe buy its weapon? From the USA. This is part of the strategy. Trump is the businessman. His question is, how can I generate more money for America? If we want to break a wheel, Trump really need a paid off US debt to private bankers. This world is run by a billionaire elites. Every billionaire group wants to control the world on its own terms. From Bush to Biden, the real decision making has stayed the same. One key figure behind this global strategy is Victoria Nuland, who's been involved in this game for over 30 years. Her husband, Robert Kagan, was one of the writers of the New American Century report. In 2021, President Putin asked the US for guarantees that NATO would not expand further. President Biden refused. The stage was already set. Russia had to walk into the trap on February 24, 2022. Sorry, my language, but what I see is Russia stuck in a Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine. In March 2022, President Putin offered a peace deal to Zelensky. Both sides agreed, but suddenly UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson flew to Ukraine and convinced Zelensky to reject the deal. The peace was broken. Donald Trump says he wants to change the world order. For over 100 years, world politics has operated under a hidden deep state ideology. Trump wants to break it and build a new world structure. But it's not easy. Even if he ends the Ukraine war, the focus will shift to China and Iran. The truth is, UK and Europe used Ukraine, they destroyed the country while their leaders got rich. The people of Ukraine, they were left to suffer. If a peace deal happens tomorrow, the US and UK will take Ukraine minerals, while Russia will retain the Donbas region, rich in trillions of dollars in resources. Everyone will profit, except the Ukrainian people. They will be told they were brave. They will receive some aid. Their homes might be rebuilt, but their national pride was stolen. Ukrainians were deeply connected to their land, their families, their faith. The West shattered their identity. And now, in the name of rebuilding Ukraine, Western capitalism will enter and turn them into slaves of the global system. I talked with a few Sikhs, humanitarian groups went to Ukraine. My also friend went to Ukraine. They served selflessly, offering food and medical aid. No one asked for anything in return. They saw a land destroyed, but they also saw a people whose spirit never died. Everyone loves their homeland. Their deeper connection here, Hunter Biden biolabs, chemical warfare, and the seizure of Ukrainian oil fields and nuclear power plant. The global food crisis was not accident. The FAO made deals with Russia, limiting wheat export to cause shortages, paving the way for GMO corporation to dominate. Even India and China benefited in buying cheap oil and gas from Russia. Everyone gained profit except the people of Ukraine. They were displaced. They lost their homes and they lost their future.